My name is Herdinand Marshall, and for today's presentation, we are going to talk about Indonesia in 2045. Yeah, before we start with the whole point of the presentation, I am going to introduce you with Indonesia. So, what about Indonesia? Indonesia is the fourth largest most populated country with a total population of 276.4 million population. The capital city of Indonesia is Jakarta. There is about 10.56 million Indonesians reside in Jakarta. Jakarta is 2 times smaller than LA, but is 3 times more populated than Los Angeles. So if you have ever complained about Los Angeles traffic, you should come to Indonesia. And yeah, Indonesia is a country that is dominated with Muslim. Indonesia is the country with Indonesia is the country with the most Muslim in the world. Almost 90% of Indonesian is a Muslim. Despite of that, Indonesia is a multicultural country. It is a home of 1,340 ethnic groups and over 300 languages spoken in Indonesia. And don't forget, Indonesia is very famous for their very rich natural resources. Therefore, their mining sector is one of the largest industry in the country. In this slide, I'm going to show you not all the resources in Indonesia, but one of the most popular resources in Indonesia. The first one is nickel, the most searched raw resources now, because it is one of the raw materials to create battery. And Indonesia is the fifth largest producer of nickel in the world. The second resources is coal. And every country needed coal. And Indonesia is the fourth largest coal producer in the world. The third is palm oil. Indonesia is the largest palm oil producer. The fourth is natural gas. Indonesia is ranked 11 in the most gas produced annually. And last is copper and gold. Indonesia has one of the largest copper and gold reserves in the world. Despite being blessed with abundant amounts of natural resources, about 11.2% Indonesian population lives below the poverty line. The nation's level of development also lags behind compared to that of resources-poor countries such as Singapore, Taiwan, and South Korea. So, is Indonesia thriving? What is going to happen in Indonesia in 2045? The seventh president of Indonesia, Joko Widodo, has stated an ideal set goal for the country in 2045. Mr. Widodo here believe that Indonesia will be a sovereign and prosperous country by 2045. The president also confident that Indonesia will be the fourth or the fifth largest economy in the world by 2045. What is going on inside Indonesia for the past year? Indonesia has been making some major movements throughout the year of 2022. These movements have not only impacted the internal affairs of Indonesia, but it gets a lot of attention from other countries like United States, China, Russia, Germany, and many more. Indonesia first movement was to move their capital city from Jakarta to East Kalimantan. This project is called IKN or Ibu Kota Negara project, which translates to Capital City project. This project is a multi-billion worth of project, and Indonesia is going to need a lot of money for this project to happen. And how do they gain a lot of money in a short period of time? In this slide, I'm going to show you the strategy of Indonesia to make the vision of 2045 to come true and to build their capital city. So the first move is Indonesia, by Indonesia making a new regulation of limiting export in natural resources such as nickel and other raw materials. With this new policy, the European Union is not happy with the new policy. Therefore, they sued Indonesia in the World Trade Organization. Even though Indonesia has taken their exporting policy for raw resources, Indonesia has created a leniency in their foreign investor policy. So the new regulation was made to make it easier for foreign investors to invest in Indonesia. By not allowing the resources to be exported, this will definitely invite big foreign companies like Tesla to invest in Indonesia by moving their production factory to Indonesia. And this will help increase Indonesian economics, and it will also provide employment for the locals. And this will also invite other countries to invest in Indonesia. And this money from other countries is going to be used to build the capital city in East Kalimantan. And all these are executed at the right time, since Indonesia know that they were assigned to host the G20 summit in Bali back in November 2022. And Indonesia was planning to use this momentum to help a peace talk between Ukraine and Russia. Even though that didn't happen, but the success of the G20 summit will create a good, trustable image for Indonesia, ensuring more foreign investors that Indonesia is a safe, stable country to invest in. And what comes next? Judging from the momentum Indonesia having, and from the political map of Indonesia, the president's 2045 vision for Indonesia can definitely be achieved. It is very possible, but it's not going to be an easy job to make that happen. Why? In 2024, there will be a massive election in Indonesia, and Mr. Joko Widodo, the current Indonesian president, is not allowed to be the president again next year due to the regulation in Indonesia to prevent dictatorship. Every new president will have their own policy that is advantageous to their political group and businesses. And Indonesia is very known for their high corruption rate. With high corruption rate, and if Indonesia pick the wrong president, all this vision of 2045 can be in a big trouble. And I think it's also very possible for Indonesian to have an authoritarian leading style. Why? By the end of the year, about last week, the government of Indonesia has been making silly rules, robbing Indonesian basic rights little by little. From these new rules, I can already judge that they are trying to control the Indonesian population by slowly taking their rights. And yeah, with authoritarian leading style and a high possibility of corruption, since the government involves too much with the business, and the government people at that time could take advantage of this moment to reach themselves instead of help boost the country's economy. So, and yeah, in my opinion, if Indonesia want to make all this happen, like the 2045 vision to happen, Indonesia need to choose the right president for 2024. And Indonesia need to have a president that have the same vision with Mr. Widodo, the 2045 vision, share the same idea, share the same goal. And yeah, and Indonesia need to strengthen the corruption penalty and improve their transparency between the government and the citizen, and to put stricter sanction for big companies to prevent them from monopolying the whole industry. All these are just a recommendation that will definitely not delete corruption, but I think it will help minimize corruption in Indonesia, and in hope that Mr. Joko Widodo's 2045 vision to be achieved. And thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Herdinand Marshall. Thank you.